we go directly to the source, and that is the alpha birther, Phil Berg, Distinguished Attorney of Philadelphia, former Democratic State Committeeman, Democratic County Chairman in the past of Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, candidate for Senator and Governor in the Democratic primaries, and a lifelong Democrat. So this whole story with Orly Tates does not hold water. So welcome, Phil.
Thank you. My pleasure to be on with you. This has been a fabulous week. Things are really turning the corner, I think, as I believe I related to you last week. But for the listeners, when I put out a press release about 2 weeks ago now for a birth certificate march on Washington, which we're going to have. We don't have the date yet. Everyone has to stay tuned and go to my website, obamacrimes.com. But the next day at the National Prayer Breakfast, Obama said, I'm paraphrasing, the correct exact words are on my website, but at the end of his remarks, he said, no one should question my faith. He paused, and he said then, or my citizenship. So I believe we're getting to him, or we're getting to the people around him. I think basically, if you think about it, Obama is basically a wind-up doll. They're telling him what to say. Remember when he first went into office, there was a question whether he could use his BlackBerry. I think they're allowing him to use it under certain conditions because I think that's where he gets information how to proceed. Think how he ran for office, everybody. For everyone that questions this, first off, I'm the attorney seeking the truth whether Obama is constitutionally eligible to be president. We believe 1,000% that he is not, that he is a phony, he's a fraud. This is the biggest hoax in the United States of America in over 230 years. And I think he gets instructions on the BlackBerry. Think about it. He ran as a candidate of change. His cabinet is not a candidate of change. I think the powers that be in this country that control money said to him, Berg's right. You're an illegal alien. You have no business being president. If you want to be president, you've got to play ball our way. And that's why the cabinet is the way it is, and that's why the programs that he has come forth with during this past 13 months are such they're not the programs he ran on for the candidate of change. I think he's being told what to do. He set himself up to be blackmailed internally and externally, and we're in a real constitutional crisis. But since I announced his birth certificate march in Washington, and we've asked people to fax and email and mail copies of their birth certificate to us, we've been getting a tremendous response. The best response I've gotten from the general public in 19 months. And people are clamoring for the dates so they can make arrangements to come in from all over the country. I think this could be the biggest march ever by the initial response I'm getting. We're still in the planning stages and permit stages, stuff like that, but we'll be out with a date so that people can plan to be there. I think the reason is that, as I've stated all along, we have to make the public more aware of the situation. And I believe that I keep using the number of 20 million. I think about 20 million people know about what's going on. And my goal in the next couple months is to raise the public awareness to 100 million. Because a birth certificate, which is not the main issue, I'll go into it, but a birth certificate is something every one of your listeners must produce 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in their lifetime. And this is crucial to know because our position is Obama has produced nothing to show that he is constitutionally qualified to be president. Now, in addition to the birth certificate, because I just put out a flyer, and it'll be in the Washington Times Weekly, which is going to press today, I think, and it'll be out in people's homes on Monday, all across this country, the question of Obama and Indonesia citizen. See, there's no question. People on the Internet are fighting us back and forth on the birth certificate saying Obama showed us his. Well, first of all, he didn't show his. He showed a certification of live birth, or a COLB. And what that doesn't have, that a birth certificate has, is the weight of the baby, the length of the baby, the hospital name, the doctor's name, and the doctor's signature. So that is not on a COLB, but it's on a birth certificate. And people can identify. Everyone out there must produce a birth certificate between 1 and 10 times or more in their lifetime. They need it for Little League. They need it for a passport. They need it for marriage. They need it for college entrances. They need it for entrance to school. They need it for baptism. They need it so many times so people can identify with this issue. The Tea Party people in this country, the heads, don't want to deal with this issue, but the rank and file do. I've got an enormous response from people. Even as I told you last weekend, I was at the CPAC convention in Washington, D.C., and where I didn't speak, I got a fabulous response. I'd say I got a 99% positive response to what I'm doing. I was being recorded by some independent from overseas, and then he turned his camera and mic around to the audience, and there was not one person who disagreed with me. There were several people who just wanted more information. And Belgium TV interviewed me and other people. It's a big story around the world. And now I'm not sure, well, you're probably aware of it, you're aware of everything, but for your listeners, the Arizona legislature just passed a statute stating that anyone running for president in 2012 must show that they're constitutionally qualified. And that legislation is, as I understand it, being introduced throughout this country, which will make this march even bigger, I think, because people can identify with the issue on birth certificate. But more significant, as I stated, is the Indonesia issue, because he was adopted or acknowledged in Indonesia. And what happens when you're adopted, you know people out there that have been adopted, or many of you have adopted children. The child takes your last name. The child basically disowns the country he or she came from. And that's the same thing happened with Obama. In his book, His Parents Had Divorced, he says, my stepfather, Lolo Soturo, returned to Indonesia before my mother and I. And when I got there, I immediately went to school. Well, you can only go to school there if you were natural of Indonesia, which meant that you were either born there or acknowledged or adopted there. And we have a copy on our website, which is obamacrimes.com, of his school record, which indicates his name is Barry Soturo, his nationality is Indonesia, and his religion is Islam. Now, that's significant, Webster, because if he hasn't legally changed his name since that time, and there's no evidence he has, his legal name is Barry Soturo, so he has committed fraud every time he's used his name as Barack H. Obama in the 50 states when he filed to run for president, and he was sworn under Barack Hussein Obama. Hussein you couldn't use during the campaign, but he was sworn in under that name, and every time he has used it since that time. And that's significant because there's no indication, and also, there's indication that when he was at Occidental, everyone called him Barry. So I don't know when he decided to change his name, but there's no evidence he did it legally. People say that a child cannot be disenfranchised or by a parent. Well, true to a point, between the ages of 18 and 21, Obama himself could have renounced his citizenship in Indonesia and taken an oath to reaffirm any allegiance he had previous to the United States, if he had any. I don't believe he had any in the first place, because I really believe he was born in Mombasa, Kenya, where his paternal grandmother, Sarah, says, and it's on tape on our website in Swahili, where she says she was in the hospital when he was born there. So the response is phenomenal. I'm asking people, please, to help us out, contribute money. It's going to take a lot to get this event going on. The march will be a day. We're going to have the birth certificate march in Washington with everyone hopefully bringing a copy of their birth certificate. It's going to be a peaceful revolution, peaceful. The reason I'm doing that, and we're going to do something about it, there's the Orly Tates out there who I can't stand, and I usually don't talk against anyone. She's having her minions, her people, put out information that we're looking for violence. We want no violence.
Oh, my God, a new low for Orly Tates. Thanks very much, Phil. More power to you. That blackmail issue, I think, is really important. Anybody can understand that.
Great.
We'll see you next week.
Okay, ObamaCrimes.com.